Good evening. This is Black Star, Still Rising. And I'm your host, Stephen. I am Stephen Silver Carter. Have a wonderful guest that I'm going to introduce you to in a few minutes, but I have to do the initial shout out. You know me. I've got to give a shout out to make sure that I don't forget at the end. Shout out to Amani Payne and also Rocio Santos. Thank you so much for being the producers that you are and the encouragement that you are for us in the programs that we do. I've got to also give a shout out to my executive advisor, and that's the O.S. Owen, who has followed me, been before me in the future and in previous programs, but now is a great advisor to me in the programs that we get and identifying guests like our guest for today. Also have to shout out to our founder, the founder of Black Star Project, and that is Philip Jackson, the late founder, and also to the executive secretary, Gloria Smith, who keeps the foundation going, who keeps the program going, and makes a difference. We also have to shout out to Cy Lewis in the Meadows program on the east side of Chicago. And there's one more shout out to Lisa Dawn Taylor, who is the founder of the Current magazine, the South Shore Current, West of the Rhine Current, and the West Side Current. So I did my shout outs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, the most important thing is to get to my guest. My guest is Sheri Yarbrough. Sheri has a bachelor from the famous Spelman College. And all you Spelman folks, if you have not, know that she's on. Call your other Spelman alumni. Let them know that Sheri's on the phone, and talk to those Morehouse men too that you can put a call out to. Let them know Sheri's going to be on tonight. Sheri has got a bachelor's from Spelman, but she went on to the University of Illinois to get her Ph.D. in psychology. Sheri, welcome. Welcome.
Well, actually, it's in education policy.
Okay,
studies.
Thank you. Good.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here this evening.
And we'll
I'm
talk
very
about
excited.
this book, and this is the book that got me excited. Oh my God, I'm a grown-up, a conversation of giving care to a loved one and yourself. That's the theme for this evening. Sheri, go ahead.
Well, I've been a family caregiver to my mom since the fall of 2010, when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. But I had known since I was 24 years old that I would probably be the one of the three siblings.
There's always one in the family.
There's
right?
always one in the family. And when I was 24, I sort of summed up my life and the lives of my siblings and said, you know what, I'm probably going to be that person. But it was something that I tucked away for many years until a routine doctor's appointment abruptly threw me onto that caregiver path. It was quite shocking because I walked into that doctor's appointment as a daughter, and I walked out as the primary caregiver to an Alzheimer's dementia patient. And I really had no idea what I was going.
This is a journey that nobody really prepares for, and it comes all of a sudden, and you're trained that you're boarding, have no idea where it's going to go, unprepared for it, no ticket, and nothing was planned. So I know that you went from there. Go ahead and tell what happened when you got that awakening, if you can call it that, on this journey.
It was very difficult because my mom and I had a difficult relationship. And
the typical tension between mom and daughter? Or
well, it was more than that. The difficulties in our relationship came not because of anything that she and I had done directly to each other, but because of spillover from my grandmother.
Okay, it was a generational
It was
thing.
a generational issue. My grandmother thought that it was appropriate to put verbal footprints on my mother anytime she felt like it.
Okay.
And my mom thought that she was of that generation that thought keeping silent and never speaking back
that was
a
sign
show
of
of respect.
Yes, okay.
And so she swallowed all of that anger and frustration. But as you know, those kinds of those things can't stay buried.
Right. Yeah.
And so she would vent that frustration at me. so by the time I was a teenager, I kind of figured out what was going on, and I didn't like it. And my mother and I have very different temperaments.
Are you the quiet, easygoing member of the family at times?
I am, but if you make me angry, you will see the Hulk come out.
Okay.
So when her frustration would come out, I would push it back as hard as I could because I didn't like being attacked.
Did you push back on her?
On her. You know, we
okay.
had our verbal thing going,
Yeah.
and I would push it back as hard as I could because I didn't feel that I should have to tolerate something I didn't do.
Okay, I'm following you.
And so from my mom's point of view, because I didn't keep silent the way she had kept silent, she felt that I didn't respect her.
So antagonism grew. The older you got, the more. Okay, did you get more power as you got older and became a teenager, or when you went away to Spelman, or what?
I think that was when I went away to school. I found my own voice. And so in the 25 years between between me having my epiphany about probably being the caregiver to our parents, and then it actually happened, we had learned that the best way to get along was if you have your lair over there.
Is that to go along to get along?
No, it was more like
okay.
you have your lair over there.
Okay.
And my lair is over here.
Another twain shall
And
meet.
we can come together and do our thing. But in those moments when we're in that space of that anger, we can separate and be done with
Didn't
it.
have that stress in those moments. Okay.
Right. So that was what we had done for 25 years to manage our relationship. But when Alzheimer's dementia showed up and she could no longer live alone, the strategy we had used was no longer valid.
Okay. When did Mom, and I guess this is something that our listeners and our viewers are thinking about, when do they know that they're in a state of early dementia, and do they accept it? And how did you bring it to her or make her more aware?
Well, it started just, for us, it was a routine doctor's appointment. And what was so interesting was her doctor was a Morehouse man who had known me for many years.
Okay.
So when I took her to see him, he basically said, "I'm glad you finally showed up. Your mom is in the early stages of dementia. She can't live alone anymore, and you're the one."
So he dropped that on you?
Yeah, he just dropped it there.
Okay. And what was your reaction? Am I hearing right or what?
My reaction was, no.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, I had known for 25 years that I would probably be the one. But when I was 24, I thought, okay, I'll see it coming. I can prepare myself, and it'll be like regal fanfare, and I can step into my role.
Right.
No, it didn't.
The train came into the station quicker than anybody could think about, right?
What I got was wind chimes screaming frantically in gale force winds telling me, now!
You're it. You're the one. You're the one.
Yes.
How did you break it to your sibling? It's just a brother?
I have a brother and a sister.
And a sister. Okay. How did they engage or become involved, and to what degree? Because you're going to talk about you being a quarterback, the team leader on this. We're going to talk about how that has to happen with the one.
Well, I'm a very honest and very direct person, and there's no soft soaping or sugarcoating this.
Okay.
It's like Mom has dementia, and she can't live by herself anymore, so I'm going to have to do this. And it was very difficult for me because when I was 24, I had no idea. I didn't have the life experience to know what caring for a parent would be.
So you saw no other family members who had it, or friends whose parents had?
Not really, because all my friends we were all the same age. We didn't know any better, but I thought that having this epiphany and being forward thinking, and at 24, I thought I would see it coming, and I just didn't.
How did you tell our audience? How did your siblings accept this role and start to accept a role that you designated? And in one sense, you're the leader here. You had to tell them what you expected, how they fit into this care. Go ahead.
Well,
please.
my sister lives out of town, so you know, she was just kind of like, well, whatever you need, whenever you need it, just let me know, and I will, and I'll help. And my brother lives here, and he was pretty much the same way. But he realized that, you know what, I really don't have the patience to do this, so I'll help you whenever and however I can.
There's things that he was not capable of psychologically or emotionally.
I just think that, you know, it's not for everybody. And I encourage our listeners, it's not for everyone. And everyone has to process caring for a loved one in their own way. And so in his way, he was like, I know you're going to do a good job, so you just let me know what you need from me, and I'm there for you.
So he had a way of supporting the process, of supporting the team in this particular case. Okay. What else would you tell our viewing audience what to look for? And talk about, you have a way of talking about caregiving versus caregiver. Can you explain about that a little bit more, please?
I learned, there are 3 really, really, really invaluable lessons I learned on this journey.
Get your pencil and paper. I wanted you to take some notes because you're going to get a chance to send some questions in. So take your notes down now.
Number 1, the hardest part of being a family caregiver is not taking on the additional responsibilities and performing additional tasks. The hardest part of being a family caregiver is taking on those responsibilities and tasks and doing them while you're feeling what you're feeling. Caring for a loved one is extremely emotional, and you are going to feel what you feel. And performing those tasks and taking on those responsibilities in that space when you're having who knows which emotions, and they can come out of nowhere, and you can have divergent emotions all happening at the same time, and that makes that need of caring for this loved one extremely difficult. So that's the really, truly hard part.
So you're going to talk about, too, how you relieve stress and how you have to keep yourself up or at a place where you can be.
Well, that comes to my second point.
Okay.
You, as a family caregiver, you are an integral part of the care relationship and not simply a dispenser of care to your loved one.
You might want to repeat that again so we get this down. This is really a key point when we were talking earlier. Please talk about that again.
I'll say it again. You, as the family caregiver, are an integral part of the care relationship, not simply the dispenser of care to your loved one. And that's a really tough thing to remember, because we sometimes get so focused on the fact that this person's in need, I need to give and give and give to this person. But you forget yourself and the fact that you are in this as well. And you have needs that were there prior to the arrival of a loved one's care needs. And still have them. Yeah. So you have to integrate yourself into that care relationship.
That's a lot of emotions and things and thoughts all going on in an average day.
Exactly.
And it doesn't get any easier, I take with each day.
And I'm glad you said the word easier. Remind me to come back to why I avoid the word. There are two words I avoid. Easier and better.
Okay.
I avoid those words, and remind me to come back to those.
Okay.
And then the third and most important part is you have a choice.
Okay.
Now, you may not have a choice in what life gave you to handle, but you do have a choice in how you're going to live what you've been given.
Is that like playing bid whist and you get this hand and you got to play with it or
You
bluff
got
it?
it. You got to bluff it or whatever. But you can choose.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes when a loved one's care needs arrive, you feel out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And when it arrives at your doorstep, you feel like you don't have any more control.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have control.
What do you have control over?
You.
Okay.
You have control
I kind of
over
thought you were
you.
going to say that.
And
Sure,
you
yeah.
can choose how you're going to deal with this thing that
Mm-hmm.
has just been given you that you didn't expect.
You know, in our conversation leading up to this, you talked about difference between being selfish and, how did you raise it, self-preserving.
Oh, absolutely. For many of us, particularly women, we're taught that selfishness is a bad thing.
Okay.
That's a no-no.
Okay.
You're not no.
Listen to her. She's
You
speaking
shouldn't be selfish.
from experience.
You shouldn't be selfish. But when you are a family caregiver, you have to, again, going back to what I said about including yourself, so you have to be selfish enough to be self-preserving.
Okay. You used another term, I think, it's not self-indulgence.
It is not self-indulgence. It is your self-preservation. Because let's think about it. If you're caring for someone and you fall apart, what's going to happen to that person?
You had a famous quote about that, too.
Yes, someone shared this with me. She said, remember, if you stumble, she falls.
It's like if the master sneezes, then I got a pneumonia, right?
Exactly. And so it's so important that you include yourself, because you are that person who's making this relationship work.
Have you found yourself over these years now being more self-reflective?
Yeah.
You almost were you a self-reflective person before that, or you pushed into being more self-reflective?
I think I was always a tad bit self-reflective.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my mom's care needs arrived and I was not expecting them, the first thing I had to do was, on my first off day, was hide out at my favorite thinking place behind the planetarium.
You like the lakefront too?
I love the lakefront.
I go there at least once a month for that. I take a little lunch, 63rd Street Beach, and that's my summer, winter, fall, spring.
And I just had to sit back there.
Okay.
Because I didn't know how I was going to manage this journey and live in a place that I didn't want to live with this anger that I detested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Anger brought about because you get thrust into this situation, or what?
With my mom and me, in us living in our two layers,
Okay.
we never dealt with what the anger was. So it was just sort of unresolved. It was there.
Okay.
But you're over there, I'm over here, so it's good. But now I'm back in that space where it is.
Did you think she ever had the occasion to understand how the tension was? Did she ever reflect herself in what your grandmother did to her in a way? Did she ever talk about that?
No, she did
Okay,
not.
okay.
You know, that's that generation. They don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
She had a lot of hurt, and that's, you know, just over time, building that understanding of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of how my praxis for care came to be, because there's one dynamic in there, forgiveness. And that's just, forgiveness allows you to heal and move your past out of the way, so that
To heal and move your past out of the way. Okay.
Because if your past is still active and you're trying to care for this person, it interferes with your ability to be patient with what you're experiencing, so that you can move forward, make the best decisions moving forward.
I know that you indicated in your book too about patience. Did we hit all the points of your platform, the fulcrum?
Well, let me tell you what my praxis for care is. I think about being a family caregiver like riding a teeter-totter.
Okay.
and you're moving up and down between your needs.
That's a seesaw, right?
Yes, a seesaw.
I want to make sure we talk the same playground equipment. Okay.
So you're moving up and down between your needs and the needs of your loved one.
Yes.
And so when you think about it, when you think about a seesaw's not going to move with just one person, right?
Right.
And we've all had that experience with that playground bully that holds you up in the air. It
just keeps you there. Just sits back
and won't let you down.
Yeah, I know. I've seen them.
So
I've had that.
That's where forgiveness comes in. Forgiveness, whatever the past was, whether it was 15 years ago or 5 minutes ago, having that ability to move that past out of the way, allowing yourself to be patient with what you're experiencing so that you can accept your scenario and move forward. Now, in every relationship, you have to have some fundamental values. And we have to have honor. You have to have trust.
Okay.
You have to be honest, and there has to be respect.
And that's why this program is about seniors. They need to be given respect. They need to be acknowledged themselves, not as elderly, but as elders. They need to acknowledge, I'm old. I'm older. I'm not old. All right. And those are some of the things. But I want to talk about, you have, I think, a unique design for the book. And you had a reason for that. And you have worksheets and things that folks can engage in. Talk about that and why you chose that route.
Because no one knows you and your loved one better than you do.
Okay.
And so your care relationship is yours. And it has to fit you. And so I wrote this book in a way to give people...
You call it what again? A plexus?
Praxis for
Praxis,
care.
okay. And that differs from just theory. Go ahead and talk about that.
And I wanted people to embrace what they know and to use the most important thing. You know yourself and your loved one better than anybody else. And so while on these care journeys there may be similar things between other people, but I want you to think about, who are you? What do you need? How are you going to navigate this with the person you know?
Do people give you feedback on they have to take time to contemplate? They have to put down their feelings? Are they afraid of writing those feelings
down? Oh, absolutely. For me, writing is a catharsis for me, but for some people, writing is sort of like being back in 10th grade English class with the teacher pointing out in red pen that you've dangled your participles.
Right.
But I say, whatever format, however you need to do this, do you need to do it audio or whatever, look at the questions and ask yourself those things and give yourself that space to answer, because you have to decide what you need for your care journey.
You need that clarity. This helps. The format that you have allows you to develop clarity so that you can be a better caregiver, I should say. Yeah. Okay.
Now, we're going to go back to those two words while I still have time.
Yeah.
I avoid the words easier and better.
Okay.
Better implies that if you do something, that the scenario that you're in is going to somehow change and probably not be what it is. When you're caring for somebody, that's probably not going to happen. And then easier, I avoid that one because caring for a loved one is fundamentally difficult, and so it just, it sets you up for an unrealistic expectation if you think that this fundamentally difficult thing is somehow going to get easier.
But, let's take a big minute.
Get manageable. You can make it manageable.
Okay.
You can make it productive.
Yes.
But it's not going to get easier.
Okay. How can people get more information? Tell our audience how to get more information about some of the things, and maybe even how to pick up the book, too.
You can find my book, OMG, I'm the Grown-Up, A Conversation on Giving Care to a Loved One and Yourself. It's available on Amazon. I also have a website at www.praxis, Praxis, for care.com.
That's it for the moment, okay.
That's it for the moment.
We might take another moment for that. What else would you want to leave our audience with? You brought up a lot of things, and I know some things are more critical than others. What would you say that comes up and people ask you about the most?
including themselves. I think that people have a very, very, very difficult time doing that. And
Including themselves in which way?
including themselves in this care relationship.
Okay.
Your life didn't stop because your loved one's care needs showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to include those needs as well.
Is that part of the contemplation and reflection that
Absolutely.
you do or not? Do you take it kind of formally, or is that part of your contemplation time when you get behind the planetarium?
It's become a lifestyle.
Okay.
So, and for family caregivers, we don't have a lot of time. So by making this a lifestyle and thinking about, okay, what do I need at this moment? And to be able to reflect, and there's some days I'm not my best.
Mm-hmm.
And so being forgiving of myself
Mm-hmm.
when I'm not my best, and being patient with myself because I'm just a human being,
Okay.
so that I can accept that I'm just a human being, and some days it's going to work well and some days it isn't.
What do folks, when they start to see the signs of early dementia, what are the most difficult things for them to admit it to themselves or to take it to the doctor and family on that? What's the most difficult part that you've experienced?
I think that in the African American community, we have sort of a denial about it,
Mm-hmm.
but the earlier it's diagnosed, the better you can begin to make decisions on how you're going to work through this really, really difficult journey.
And you had another dimension, and I don't know how much time we have, but your mother developed cancer too, and
Yes.
that was a factor in your caregiving too, another factor added on.
Yes, because she had dementia, she could not make complex decisions, so that became my decision making as well.
And she couldn't articulate all the things that she was feeling. Okay. That's a bunch of things to add on to a young woman at 25.
Well, I was 49 at the time.
49 at the time.
Yeah, so it was 25 years after I had my epiphany that the care needs arrived that I had tucked away and forgotten about.
You know what I found interesting too, the journey to Spelman, because you fought going to
No, I
Spelman.
didn't
You were a
wanna go.
legacy too, weren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And
So, but I think that being at Spelman, it's a place where African American women are expected to succeed. And I think I carry that with me at all times.
And with that, thank you so much, Sheri.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
Dr. Yarbrough, I'm glad to have you here. And I'm going to get an autograph before we finish here. Say it once more. Give it the place where they can reach you for further information.
www.praxis.care.com.
This is your stop on this journey. This is the station where you stop at and listen and get some information to help you for your family or people and friends that you know. Thank you for being with us today. Again, thank you for my producers, Imani and Rosiel, and also for our sponsor, Black Star, Still Rising. Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to us next week too. Same time, same station.